This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Do you play FanDuel and feel like you aren't creating consistent money-making lineups? Go over to the DFS Doctors on Twitter at the DFS Doctors and DM them with promo code Detroit Sports to get a free trial for their analytically formulated 70% lifetime profit rate NFL and NBA lineups. The whole purpose of playing daily fantasy sports is to get out there and compete and give yourself a chance to win. So go over to the DFS Doctors. Let them help you. They have analysts on staff that look at the best optimal lineup that you can put out there to win money. So why not take advantage? At the DFS Doctors, promo code Detroit Sports.
Welcome in, everybody, to the latest edition of Doc and Jock. The second week in a row now, Adam and I are recording from our respective homes. Look, man, I have watched so much Netflix. It is crazy. I've binge-watched Tiger King, and you're going to laugh at this one. Showtime is giving away free content. You can watch on demand all their programming. They had a show called Gigolos. And I'm like, all right, let me check this. Let me check this out. And yeah, it can't be real. It can't be real about these male escorts in Vegas who are plowing chicks on camera. But I'm like, you know what? The five guys are relatable. They're cool dudes. And it's a scripted show with sex, but there's some relatability to these guys just trying to make their way. And so I binge watched that. There's like 6 seasons of it from.
Does it remind you of your past life before you were married?
No, far from it.
Far from it.
So shit like that. How you living, cuz?
Oh man, I'm okay. This is getting kind of annoying, really and truly, dude. Like, was this day 10 of quarantine? Like, for real though. I just want to go do things. I want to go to the movies. I want to go out. I want to go eat. I want to like just go back to being regular. And I basically find myself driving to work, working my ass off in an empty gym, driving back home, and then it's just sit in front of the TV or read articles online. That's pretty much my life right now. It's so mundane. I just want to do something. I mean, shit, right now, well, while we record this, I'm sitting in front of my television, that massive Godfather TV I have, and I've got MLS going on right now. So like they're showing replays of the Los Angeles Galaxy versus LA Football Club. So I mean, that's where I'm at right now. I'm watching MLS soccer to get my sports fix.
Yeah, I'm not missing live sports, but I'm not watching old sporting events from Detroit. Are you? I know that they've aired Michigan State, Duke. They've aired some quality games and things like that. But for me, like I'm going to continue to say I don't miss live sports. I do miss like you've said, just going out to a bar and having a whiskey or just the freedom to just go. It feels like everything's it's like a ghost town. Like you're living in a town where there's not that many people. And I recall when I would drive to the studio to record with you, it would take roughly 35, 40 minutes. Now I'm getting to the office in like 20 minutes to check the mail and things like that. And then the social distancing when Andrea and I have gone for walks. I mean, people literally will just walk across the street and they're taking it seriously in this sub. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wow, it's just weird because whenever anyone coughs, they're like, oh, you got the corona? And it's like, no, I'm very healthy. I'm practicing everything possible. But the spread of the disease in Macomb and Wayne and Oakland County is pretty bad. We're talking, 8,000 cases or so in Michigan in like 3 weeks? It's pretty sick.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, man. This is nuts. Look, I'm happy the governor filed for disaster relief, and I'm happy the president granted it because God knows everybody in the state of Michigan needs it at this point. Dude, this is crazy. This is absolutely nuts, and it's weird to see how the government is trying to handle these things at both a state and a federal level. You know what I'm saying? Like, all of a sudden, the government has just come up with this cash flow to be able to compensate everybody with unemployment, which I think is fantastic. But my thought process is, where's it all coming from? And what does that mean later on? Because the other shoe's got to drop, right? You can't have one without the other. And you know I'm a total conspiracy theorist. So there's always a bigger plan going on in the background that we just don't know about. But otherwise, quarantine's been okay, I guess. I mean, look, I go on dates to Meijer, I go on dates to grocery stores to pick things up, and that's kind of how my life is right now. It's just, it's what it is, bro. It's so weird. I'm happy I got a dog so I can play with my dog.
Yeah, things have slowed down so drastically. It's unbelievable. Well, thankfully, in the world of sports and podcasting, you can talk about the NFL 24/7. Our hits and reads and readership has gone up in the month of March. I'm so thankful for that. I want to personally thank everybody for allowing me to report on the Detroit Lions, and the level of success that the SI All Lions channel has had has been awesome. The level of participation with the podcast. Adam and Brendan now are starting another one. It's a good time in relation to the NFL, but there has been some pushback, some criticisms in regards to the fact that the NFL really hasn't slowed down. They're going to proceed with a virtual draft. They're not talking like the season's going to be delayed in any way, shape, or form. Everybody understands that the NFL is a cash cow, and they will wait till the last second before they decide to shut anything down. But to look at it critically, should the NFL take a more serious approach in regards to shutting things down, in regards to maybe considering a delay in the draft and letting the teams at least get a week or two after April to maybe review everything? Because you remember now, all the teams are working remotely. At least with the Lions, only the critical staff are showing up to the building. Most of the coaches are working from home. So it's going to be tough in regards to the actual diligence that's needed to scout all these players. But I would say that with the NFL, the draft maybe could have been delayed 2 weeks. I don't think I would have had a big problem. Just delaying the draft 10 days, it's no big deal.
Dude, I love that they're continuing on. I think it's fantastic. Look, especially with the draft, it puts everybody on an even playing field. If you're a Detroit Lions fan, you have to love this. You have to love that everybody is limited with their resources. So everybody is essentially working with hands over their eyes. I think it's fantastic. And if I'm the NFL, I'm going to push this right up until I can't push it anymore. I'm going to keep going until I can't go anymore. What's the big deal if the draft takes place on its regularly scheduled day? I don't see a big deal with that. You know, yeah, so medicals can't get done. A couple of the physicals can't get done. I get it. Everybody has to do everything kind of in the dark, and I think that's fantastic. All right? I don't see a huge deal with postponing everything and waiting a little bit to be able to try to see how everything's going to play out. If I'm the NFL, there's not a whole lot going on right now. I mean, you're going to have the draft, and we have all this talk about the draft, and that's kind of where we're at. You're not going to be missing OTAs as of yet. You're not going to be missing any of your training camps as of yet. You're not going to be missing a whole lot of anything. So what's the point of delaying either the season or delaying the draft or holding off on anything? I get that we're going through a pandemic right now. We're living in a weird time. But if everything is done remotely, we're recording a podcast remotely. So if you can do everything remotely, everybody's more or less safe where they're at. You allow basically one or two cameramen into a building to videotape Roger Goodell walking up to the podium. I don't see a big deal with this. Everything else can be done with laptops and Skype cameras, and you're going to be A-okay. So I don't see the point in delaying it. I think it's fantastic. I think if you're a Lions fan, you have to feel like this gives you a little bit of an advantage because everybody's now operating on that even playing field. And you know what? It's all a crapshoot anyways. So who makes the best guess? That's kind of where we're at right now. You know? I mean, look, the NFL just expanded the playoff. I don't think either one of us think the Lions are going to make it to the playoffs, even with the expansion. So what's the big deal? What's the big deal? What does it hurt?
Well, the thinking is that you want to give every team the full opportunity to evaluate the likes of maybe a player like Tua because of the fact that he's claiming now that he's 100%.
Look, Tua's 100%. He told you.
Yeah, you believe him 100%?
You see my face now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, that being said, I'm still drafting his ass. I'm drafting at 3, and I can't trade back. I'm still drafting him.
Exactly. How bad is it now, cuz, that the league decided that there's going to be 7 teams representing the NFC, and the Lions probably won't get there either, and then there'll be some weird justification for bringing them back but 7 and 9 could get the Lions in the playoffs. You never know. There were a couple teams that would have benefited in the last decade for the Lions that would have made the playoffs under a 7-team scenario, but I'm okay with it. I like the idea of adding teams to the playoffs, but I'm always going to look for the Lions to try and compete and win and get enough players to move forward in the playoffs. So that's why I think that when you look at it, I just think that the Lions will play a better brand of football, but I just see that with everything, with the complete overhaul, I don't know if 7 wins would do it for the Lions to be like 1 or 2 games away. If they're 1 game out of a 7-game playoff, I still think that, 7 teams is a good standard. And I think that if the Lions, the standard should be for Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn. If you guys don't bring this team into the playoffs in a competitive nature, have the Detroit Lions in the playoffs in 2020, then they should be gone. But I think it's great for the NFL. I'm happy with it. I think that there's an incentive to be number 1. You're not going to see, I think, a lot of players resting at the same level that you saw in years past. And I'm just happy all the way around that there's at least one more chance. But there's some people that will make the argument that if the Lions get to the 7th seed and get destroyed on the road, then that's not progress either. So I can understand both sides of that argument, but more opportunities for Matt Patricia to try and get this team forward is fine by me. I just look at it though. I'm still critical with what what the moves were made in free agency. I just don't think it's anywhere near enough, and I don't think the Lions are going to hit on 7 of 9 draft picks. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't think they're a better team because of free agency. That's for damn sure. Look, I don't like adding 14 playoff teams. I don't like adding the 2 extra teams. No, because it just dilutes it. The one thing that was special about the NFL playoffs was it was the best of the best. It was very rare you ever had a team that kind of backed in or got in and didn't deserve to be there. So now you're going to add 2 teams that, like you said, might end up finishing 7 and 9 and get in the playoffs. Do they really deserve to be there? Do they really deserve to represent their conference? I don't think so. I just don't see it. And you're right. It'll probably be the Lions who get in and represent the NFC North in a wild card game and just get absolutely shellacked. And what fun is that? Look, you brought up mine and B's throwback podcast that we're going to be doing, right? It's going to be dropping on Sunday. And what we do is we're going to go back and we're going to review whole seasons we're starting with the Lions. We're going to review whole seasons of the Detroit Lions, 2 games at a time, and kind of break them down and talk about them and talk about what stood out with those teams. And I'm almost positive we're going to end up comparing and contrasting them to what we have today. So I don't see the excitement for a team like the Lions who get in at 7 and 9. They're that 7th seed. They have to go on the road and they get destroyed. I remember we're starting with the 2011 team, and that team ended up going to New Orleans. And I remember being so damn excited. I remember thinking they're probably going to get just annihilated when they head down to New Orleans, because at that point Drew Brees was just killing dudes. And I remember thinking to myself, they're probably going to get destroyed, but this is a good first step. This is a good stepping stone for that Lions team. You go to 2012 after they got destroyed by the Saints. I think they were 6 and 10, or they were 3 and 12, something like that. It was like everything just fell apart. All the good that they did in that one season didn't carry over. So I think when you look at football teams, you got to look at them as individual seasons. You can look at everything that the front office does as a whole, and I think that's a good way to grade the front office. But each season kind of has to be graded by itself, because there was zero carryover from that 2011 team, which was really, really good. That 2011 team was so damn good. And they were a 6th seed, and they got popped by the Saints. The Lions being a 7th seed in this hypothetical, I just see them getting destroyed. I don't see it doing any good for this franchise. I don't think it's going to help. I think it's fantastic because it gives us something more to watch on Saturdays and Sundays during playoff time in the NFL season. And I think it's great because it is a cash cow for the NFL, just another license for them to print money. So I get it. Go ahead and do it. But from a team standpoint, from what we're looking for from the Detroit Lions, I don't think it does them any good. I think it helps the league out. I think it helps those individual franchises out that get those home games and get those home gates. But competitively, I don't think it's going to be a very good game.
Yeah, I can't wait to listen. Sundays, guys, tune in. Adam and Brendan Riley are going to recap the Detroit Lions. Not only did you live through the misery once, Adam and Little D want to make you relive it again. All the mistakes, all the false starts, all the bad players that came in and jacked everything up. I can't wait to listen
man,
to it.
I'm going to tell you right now. That 2011 team, looking back on it, I was blown away because they were pretty solid. I wish I could go back and I don't know, we weren't recording a podcast back then, but man, I wish we were. Because I would love to hear what our takes were on that offensive line, on that run game, because they were stacked on both sides of the line, as stacked as a Lions team has ever been. And Jim Schwartz, I love Jim Schwartz, as fiery as that guy was. They were a solid team. Look, listen on Sundays. It's going to be a good podcast.
No doubt about it. Now, cuz in regards to now what's going to happen in the month of April, we now kind of shift our focus from free agency to the NFL draft, and some great pieces of information, some rumors have kind of started to swirl, and we're going to dive right in. It's going to be great because I love talking football. I love speculating about what the Lions could do, what they should do versus the god-awful moves they could make. It makes for some great conversation, and I love talking football, covering the Lions, and recording podcasts because it makes it for so much fun in order to, pass the time and really get through this time of no live sports. It's great to break down the roster construction of the Lions. But to start, we're kind of hearing some more rumors, some whispers that there's a chance the Miami Dolphins could make an attempt to shoot up not only to number 2, you're hearing some whispers that maybe they'll make an attempt to get their quarterback at the number 2 spot. A source told the Miami Herald, which they rolled with and published it, that Miami may not be interested in Tua or Justin Herbert. Maybe they're not interested in Jordan Love. They may be interested in the Grand Salami, the Grand Poobah. They may be interested in trying to put together a package to move up to number 1 and select Joe Burrow. Now, hearing that sends shockwaves through everything because that would change everything for the Detroit Lions because any move that's made ahead, any move that Miami makes that would be ahead of the Lions could put Chase Young into play. And any situation or scenario that lends the possibility or increases the chances, opens the door a little bit more. Because I think you and I are in the same boat. We would be floored if the Lions had the chance to select Chase Young. I'm still of the opinion, and we've talked about it in previous podcasts, Miami can sit back and get their quarterback at 5, really without having to give draft capital because of the fact that these teams are pretty much set. You're going to get one of the guys. But the reasoning that you're hearing is that there's a lot of teams that could make a push for number 1 or 2 in regards to the Chargers, the Raiders, and things like that. So Miami might have to be aggressive in trying to move up for their guy, whether it be Tua, whether it be Joe Burrow. What did you make of the news of Miami and how it could also impact what Detroit does if it's executed?
Look, if I'm Miami, I want the best guy available, right? And by all accounts, it's Joe Burrow. It makes total sense, right? I mean, the guy had a fantastic season last year, threw for 60 touchdowns, was part of 65 total touchdowns, and the guy did it in the biggest moments, and he was fantastic. The other really good quarterback that might be available is Tua, and if you can't get in there to get a medical on him, what do you're again, we talked about it earlier. You're basically drafting blind. There's a good chance that he might be hurt. There's a good chance that he might be healthy. It's kind of a crapshoot. So if I'm Miami and I've got the draft capital to move up, why wouldn't you do it? Miami's got 3 first-round picks. Sure, why not? Move from 5 to number 1. It's going to cost you a little bit. I don't think it's going to cost you a ton. And if you're Detroit, I mean, how apropos is it for Detroit? Detroit's going to get stuck holding the bag at 3 and probably have to draft a cornerback. It doesn't make your team that much better. It really doesn't. I don't care what you think about Jeff Okudah. He's not going to come in here and he's not going to set the world on fire. He's not going to be the difference in this team winning games. He's not a quarterback. He's not an edge rusher. He's not some type of linebacker who can get to the quarterback or break up plays consistently. That's not what he is. He's a cornerback. He sits out there on an island, and hopefully he can shut some guys down. But again, we've talked about it ad nauseum. You go back and you watch Darius Slay. Darius Slay took a good year to develop. Cornerbacks come into this league and they usually take a good year to develop. If Okudah can get fast-tracked, cool. You're looking at maybe 8 to 10 games it's going to take him to get acclimated. So either you're at half a season or you're almost 3/4 through a season before he's really picking it up and putting it down. I don't want that. I don't, this would be so Lions if this happens. If Miami's able to move up to number 1, Detroit has really no trade partners at number 3, because there's also, there is the possibility that Miami moves up, alright, they go get Burrow, and then you've got Chase Young who goes, and then at 3, if you want Tua, it doesn't seem like the Lions really want Tua, so who are they going to trade back with? Because it's out there already. The book has been written on what Detroit's going to end up doing, or at least it seems like the book has been written on what Detroit's going to do. They have publicly come out and said, no, we love Matt Stafford. We don't necessarily need a quarterback. Okay, great. So are you drafting a cornerback or are you drafting a linebacker? What are you doing? Nobody has to trade with Detroit. And Miami was the perfect trade partner because they had multiple draft picks in the first round as well as high draft picks in the second round. That was the team that you needed. And you needed teams like the Chargers, who Cam Newton's probably going to go to. You needed teams like the Chargers in Miami to fight over getting Tua. You needed that because one team had to want to move up and be willing to play ball with you. And if nobody's willing to play ball with you, you're going to get stuck at 3, drafting, again, Jeff Okudah.
There is an opportunity if Miami does go to 1 that maybe another team could also fall in love with Tua and could make Washington an offer. That's the scenario you have to hope for, is that whatever these
then you get Chase Young.
And then you get Chase Young. That's the only way this is a good thing. Now, there is
let me ask you this. Do you have any faith in Matt Patricia developing Chase Young and getting the most out of him? Look, we both believe Chase Young is a generational talent.
Yes.
But I have no faith in this coaching staff.
So I've heard Dave Burkett kind of talk about the Lions' defensive scheme, and I've kind of looked at the reason why they haven't pursued the likes of a Jadeveon Clowney or some of the other big-name defensive ends. And you recognize what the pundits are saying, and you look at the Lions scheme. In a 3-4 scheme, you kind of need that outside linebacker, the likes of a Jamie Collins and potentially Austin Bryant and things like that, to force the pass rush. So the Lions, in terms of their scheme, they don't value the defensive end position as much as the cover cornerback position. And so that's why there's fears now that have been sent through the Detroit Lions fan base, because PFF put out a mock draft that had Chase Young available at 3 and the Lions still selecting Jeff Okudah, because in Matt Patricia's scheme, the cover cornerback is so important. And you got to remember, we're all clamoring for the Lions to increase their pass rush. And yes, it's important, but Matt Patricia is not going to drastically overhaul that defense. And in a 3-4 scheme, he doesn't care. He said it 1,000 times. He doesn't care how many yards the Lions defense gives up. Bend, don't break is what he believes in. He believes in, look, staying in the game and making the critical play late, similar to what you saw early in 2019. Take a look at, if you want to enjoy some good football, the best game the Lions played was against the Chiefs. They kept it to a 4th and 8. But, we got to be open to the possibility Chase Young could be there and the Lions could pass on it. Now, my jaw would hit the floor. I would be angry because I would be like, look, you got to take the talented player. He would make everything better. You got to sometimes be a little flexible with your scheme. You can't just roll with this scheme 100% and pass on a Chase Young. But overall, I think the number one thing that I think is going to happen in the next year is the entire state of Michigan is going to collectively hate Matt Patricia's defense. Because if you pass on Chase Young, because you're going to sell the fan base that a 3-4 scheme that doesn't pressure the quarterback enough, and that's what you're going to sell the fan base, you're going to talk about Matt Patricia's defense for generations. I mean, literally, we'll do documentaries about it. We'll do special one-off podcasts about how awful that scheme is. And I just, fundamentally speaking, can't sit here and talk to you about guaranteeing the Lions taking Chase Young if he's there.
Yeah, no, look, I've never seen a head football coach not want to get pressure on a quarterback.
Yeah, right,
it doesn't make sense to me. Like, you show 3, you rush 3. Like, you don't ever hide your defense or hide your hand. You whatever you're showing is what you're bringing, and you're usually sending 3, maybe 4 guys, and that's it. Look, it's been proven time and time again that if you put pressure on a quarterback, they usually make mistakes. Mistakes lead to turnovers. Turnovers usually, if you have a good offense, and look, I believe this team has a pretty good offense. I think it has some holes, but overall, I think it has a pretty good offense. That offense gets the ball back and puts points on the board. Those points on the board lead to you winning games. I mean, there is a reason why this football coach sucks so bad at his job.
Yeah, man, it's crazy.
Why his record is absolutely abysmal. What is he, 9-22? Is that what he is?
Yeah,
it's horrible.
It's horrible. 9 wins in 2 years, and I just can't. I can't imagine that Matt Patricia would pass on Chase Young, because it would open up things for Trey Flowers. You would have the defensive line instantly get better. I just think that I'm hoping that scenario doesn't play out, that, you know what, you have an opportunity where Washington just sticks to form, takes Chase Young, brings the hometown guy home, and then Miami trades with the Detroit Lions, and you move back to 5 and take Okudah there, and you maybe secure one of the picks in the first round, and hopefully you get that additional pick. That's the best case scenario for the Lions. But yeah, everyone should be fearful that you're supposed to go left and the Lions go way right with this draft pick. So it's no guarantees, but I think that, you know, when 90% of mock drafts have Jeff Okudah going to the Lions, because you have to get yourself ready for a cornerback to be the first round pick for the Lions.
Dude, it's
going to happen.
If Chase Young is there and this team passes on him to draft Jeff Okudah.
Oh my God, we have content for days, weeks, months.
This is going to be the most fantastic podcast you've ever heard as my head explodes.
Oh my God. Oh yeah.
On a microphone.
Oh yeah, we'll video it, the whole shebang, because you know what's going to end up happening. Jeff Okudah will have an awful career, and Chase Young will be the next freaking, Hall of Famer.
Lawrence Taylor or something like that.
Exactly. The next supreme edge rusher that wins the Super Bowl his rookie season with Washington. That would be something else, man. Before we get out of here, you've had a chance to review 2 mock drafts. One was pretty wild. Other one, professional, in Todd McShay. Quickly to review Todd McShay's in regards to the Lions. He has the Lions taking Okudah, and then he has the Lions taking Cesar Ruiz. Now, on that front, it is a little bit confusing. Maybe Todd McShay is taking a little more hands-off approach, not paying attention, because I think Cesar Ruiz has earned a spot in the first round, probably between picks 20 and 32. He's going to fall. I think he's going to be a first-round selection. But the Lions addressed that spot, particularly with V, so I don't think that they're going to want Cesar Ruiz to shift over and play guard when he's played center. And you've already got a decent center in Frank Ragnow, so I think a lot of people that critiqued that mock draft said that it's just not exactly a positional fit. But I disagree with the pundits in that I think that Cesar Ruiz has shown enough flexibility when he transitioned at Michigan. He can play any position. He can play guard. He can play center. So I don't care that he wants to play center in the NFL. If he's good enough and he's there, I think he's good enough to be a great selection to be able to play multiple positions on the offensive line. I just don't think he's going to be even anywhere near available for the Lions to take at number 35.
I think Todd McShay's mock draft screams of a guy who's totally out of touch with what's going on with the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
Look, Jeff Okudah at 3. I get that he doesn't want to do trades. Makes sense, right? So if you've got Burrow gone and then you've got Chase Young gone, all signs point that it's going to be Okudah. So I get that at 3. That makes sense. When you go and you draft a center, a guy who has played center in high school, a guy who has played center at college, and a guy who looks like he's going to transition and be a center at the next level, And the Detroit Lions, arguably their best offensive lineman is their center because they let go of Graham Glasgow. It doesn't make sense to me to go and draft a guy to try to shoehorn him into a position like guard. It just doesn't make sense. That doesn't make any sense to me. Not when there were running backs, not when there were wide receivers, not when there were linebackers or defensive ends that were available that would make this team better and impact this team in a much grander way. You know, the offensive line is one of those places that has holes up and down it and has to be filled. But I don't think you necessarily have to fill that with a guy and play him out of his natural position. It just didn't make any sense to me. I did not like what McShay did. I liked even less what is it, Tom Flory, Fornelli of CBS Sports did. Let me give you this, all right? Because this was amazing. So first two picks go this way. Bengals select Joe Burrow, nothing new. Washington falls in love with Tua. Apparently they're not satisfied with Haskins. They draft Tua at 2. So at 3, you are left with Chase Young. It is basically Chase Young and it is Chase freaking Young. What ends up happening here are the San Diego Superchargers, or the Los Angeles Superchargers as they are now known, make a trade with the Detroit Lions. So this is what it says. It says the Lions are eternally grateful for the Redskins for taking Tua as it made their number 3 pick extremely valuable. Wait, what? In the end, the Chargers wanted Herbert more than the Dolphins or anybody else and move up to get him. So the Chargers at 3 draft Justin Herbert. So we have 3 quarterbacks going in the first 3 picks. That means Chase Young falls to the New York Giants. Jedrick Wills, the offensive lineman, goes to Miami. At 6, your Detroit Lions end up with Jeff Okudah. And it says, if Matt Patricia is truly a student of Bill Belichick, he knows that Belichick prefers to build his defense from the back end these days, so he gets the best corner in the draft and picks up extra assets while doing so. Truly Belichickian. Isaiah Simmons then goes at number 7. Tristan Wirf goes at number 8. Your boy Derek Brown goes at number 9. And Micah Becton, offensive lineman, goes at number 10. Bro, if the Lions do this, I will punch myself in the dick so hard because I will need to feel something because I will just be numb. I will be numb and I will be so upset.
Wow, trading back to 6 and not even taking Derek Brown. I mean, if you're going to trade back to 6, you got to take Derek Brown. I mean, there's no way you go to 6 and take Okudah. You know what I mean? If you're going to trade back, that has to put in play someone to address the pass rush. And we all know that, like you said, the Lions have shown and the Patriots have shown that they love the back end. But look, here's the problem. The Lions and Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn don't have the support of the fans to take another 2 years to develop a corner. So to take him at 6 and to hope that he can shine in a year or two, and to hope that it's going to result in a 6-game turnaround, that's asking for a lot because you got worse at a lot of positions. I mean, Trufant, Graham Glasgow gone. You realize that, okay, Trufant's not the suitable replacement for
He's not Darius Slay. Right.
Exactly. You've lost Graham Glasgow and put a massive hole on the offensive line, and you realize that, you know, Matt Stafford is one, you know, screwy play away from another real bad year because I'm not expecting Chase Daniel to come in and get many more wins. So I'm looking at it like this. The only trade that you got to look to, the only partner that you got to make happen and you got to cultivate a relationship with is the Miami Dolphins. And hopefully that it works in your favor to get 2 picks in this year's first round and you secure Okudah and somebody else along that defensive line. You know, the dream scenario would be if Chase Young fell. And I think after that, if you land Chase Young, whatever is remaining of the 7 or 8 picks in the 2020 draft pretty much don't matter. The Lions will win the draft. Everyone will be happy because you're going to have a solid defensive line. You're going to be able to pick probably some good players, you know, in later rounds to adjust from running back to cornerback.
That's the one thing that is so valuable about drafting where they're drafting. Yeah. I mean, you have to realize you have essentially your pick of the best guys that are left over from the previous round. You know, there's really only 2 picks that go ahead of you every single round after the first. So you're in prime position to really add high quality talent. You know, the way I look at this draft, you need starters in your first 4 rounds. Yes, you know, the guy that you get in round 4 has to be able to start for this team. And we've talked about all the holes that they have. So in round 4, it's essentially like drafting at the very back end of round 3. You need to get at least 4 starters out of this draft who contribute in a monster way, because you haven't done enough in free agency. All you did was you moved solid pieces out and you brought in a couple guys that are question marks and you brought in some comparable talent, and that was it.
Yes, so both you and I agree. Tom Fornelli's mock draft sucked.
Dude.
Todd McShay was so-so. There's a lot of good mock drafts out there. Check them out. You and I definitely are paying attention every single day to the mock drafts. It's fun, but as we get closer to the draft, pay attention to SI All Lions. Pay attention to the Detroit Sports Podcast as we break down what the Lions should do in the middle rounds. Should they address the running back? Should they look to secure more talent? Should they draft a punter? Is there a tight end that potentially could be looked at? We know for sure they're going to look at another wide receiver. They have to start building depth.
They have to.
Yes, so it's going to be a fun time. Look, even though everyone's quarantined, we hope everybody's safe. Stay safe out there, everybody. Tune into the Detroit Sports Podcast. We're going to bring it every single day, talking Detroit sports. And Adam and Brendan, remember, they're going to drop a podcast every Thursday called The Practice Squad, and they're going to drop a podcast talking about the 2011 Detroit Lions, and then as they move through, they'll talk about other things as well. And maybe, if you guys are willing, maybe open it up to other sports too, because, you know, reviewing seasons of the Red Wings would be great, controversial teams in regards to the Pistons and things like that. So maybe you guys will open it up and it'll branch off into other great topics and things like that. But check out Brendan Riley and Adam Straczynski. They drop 2 podcasts a week on our network, and they do a great job. Follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSCROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Let us know if you've enjoyed or not enjoyed anything that we've done. And if you're listening and you like it, just tell 1 or 2 other people. That's how we've grown this thing to be the DSP virus, the original virus that has plagued the nation. Because I enjoyed the time.
It was a good time, man. This was fun.
Very good. Talk soon, and we'll see everybody on the latest edition of the Doc and Jock Podcast.